correspondent Darshna Soni, who has been covering this case, is with me. I mean, just explain to people why emotions are running so high.
Well, Mark Duggan's family have waited 2 years for this verdict, and they feel they've had to fight every step of the way. And in court today, somebody shouted, "A black man's life is worth nothing." And that is how many people in this area genuinely feel, because Mark Duggan's death has to be taken in a historical context. 30 years ago, a young black woman named Cynthia Jarrett was killed after the police searched her house. The police were criticised, there were riots, a policeman was killed. 30 years forward, and people here genuinely believe nothing has changed, because in the immediate aftermath of Mark Duggan's death, the behaviour of the police and the IPCC was heavily criticised. And many people believe that if they had handled this whole affair differently, we may never have seen the riots that spread across the country in the summer of 2011.
I mean, we saw the family after the verdict. They were too upset to give interviews to the media. They cancelled a proper press conference that they had planned. Do we have any sense of what they are doing now, what's going on?
Well, there are rumours here. I spoke to one family member on my way here who said he was absolutely gutted and he couldn't find the words to speak to me. There are rumours that there was going to be a vigil here. That was cancelled because people were so upset. There are now suggestions that there's going to be a meeting at the town hall where people will be gathered to demand answers, because despite today's verdict at the inquest, although people said they respect what the jury did, they sat through 3 months of evidence, they still feel that they have been left with more questions than answers. And I have to just warn that my report on today's verdict does contain some flash photography.
Who was the real Mark Duggan? An innocent family man wrongly targeted, or a violent known criminal? According to the police, he was the senior member of a notorious gang.
Mr. Duggan was involved in gun crime. They were considered the most violent people in London.
But his family say the intelligence against him was flawed.
We've wanted to know what happened. We wanted the truth.
His death led to accusations of a cover-up, and the consequences were felt across the country. The worst riots in living memory quickly spread from Tottenham throughout England.
Why are you out on the streets here tonight?
Basically, the police are being abusive. They don't like black people.
In a week of violent chaos, 5 people were killed. Thousands were arrested and imprisoned. And this evening there were warnings of further unrest, as a jury found that Mark Duggan was lawfully killed, even though they were sure he did not have a gun in his hand when he was shot.
We are not giving up! No justice! No peace!
The shooting of a young black man here on the edge of Broadwater Farm was always going to be controversial. The community has had a long and troubled relationship with the police. But it also raised important questions about our trust in officers and how we hold them to account. Because as people try to understand what happened here, the response of the police and its watchdog, the IPCC, would prove incendiary.
In August 2011, 3 separate police units were following Mark Duggan as he travelled in a taxi through Tottenham. According to Met Intelligence, he had collected a gun from his associate. Kevin Hutchinson Foster was later convicted of supplying Mr. Duggan with the weapon. But crucially, the inquest heard that officers never actually witnessed the exchange, but responded as if they had, forcing his taxi to stop on a busy main road. Mr. Duggan was shot twice as he got out of the silver Toyota people carrier. A passer-by filmed the immediate aftermath.
Someone just got shot.
The officer trying to resuscitate him, known as V53, was the same officer who had pulled the trigger.
I remember getting a phone call, and news like that sort of just knocks you for 6. It's how do you deal with it? What are you supposed to do when faced with such a situation?
The jury decided by a majority of 8-2 that the killing was lawful. Officer V53 testified that he honestly believed Mr. Duggan had a gun.
It's like a freeze-frame moment. The only thing I was focusing on is the gun.
He said he fired twice because the suspect raised the gun towards him, but the jury found Mr. Duggan didn't have a gun in his hand at the moment he was killed.
The firearms officers, in a microsecond, have to make a decision And if they get it wrong, then they could die, and a lot of other people could as well. And that's the kind of pressures that are being applied here, knowing that they're dealing with someone who's known to have firearms.
Roger Gray is an ex-firearms officer who worked for the Met's elite SO-19, the unit that shot Mr Duggan.
Everything will happen, it seems in slow motion, but what's happened is your body speeded you up to try to keep you alive, which is why afterwards, evidentially, it can be very difficult to give a true time-related account of what's happened from the officer's standpoint.
But the differing accounts about the gun have led to accusations of a cover-up. The gun was found some 20 feet away from Mr Duggan's body. During the inquest, officers denied under questioning that it had been planted.
One of the big issues for the community was how the gun ended up on this side of the fence.
It's how the gun ended up over a fence, over that bit of the wall, and 7.1 metres away from Mark's body. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
Stafford Scott has supported the Duggan family's campaign for justice. During the inquest, the judge strongly criticised what he called the stark problem of evidence given by some officers, evidence contradicted by this eyewitness video. 3 officers testified that the weapon was found on the other side of the fence, yet the video footage shows it couldn't have been found at the time they said it was. The jury decided Mr Duggan threw it onto the grass verge.
Why was he on his way to get a gun?
I can't answer that question. What I would say is this, right? That again, it's been played out that because someone goes to get a gun, it means that they're in attack mode and they're going to go and try and kill someone. It's not necessarily always the case that that is the case.
The family believed the intelligence was flawed, and the jury criticised the Met's handling of that intelligence. In the hours after his death, reporters were briefed that Mark Duggan was a violent gang member. The IPCC admitted to wrongly stating that Mr Duggan had fired first in a shootout with the police.
They're making out that he's this big massive gangster, that's why they went and they shot him.
We've spoken exclusively to Israel Emmanuel, who has intimate knowledge of Mark Duggan and the gang he was allegedly connected with, the TMD. He says there was no organised structure and that the intelligence was outdated.
TMD, that acronym, came from maybe like my granddad's days. My granddad would say, I've gone to Stoke Newton and I saw the Stoke Newton man them, or I was in Brixton, I saw the Brixton man them, or I was in Stonebridge, I saw the Stonebridge man them. The young generations come down and they've used that same acronym.
So you're saying there was no organised structure, that the police got that wrong?
It's not an organised gang, far from it. Police are organised, government's organised, all these people are organised, Tesco's are organised. It's not organised.
3 days after Mr Duggan's killing, his family led a peaceful protest to Tottenham Police Station. They wanted to know why the media was being briefed about the shooting when they hadn't even had an official visit to inform them of the death.
It was unbelievable. Had somebody been knocked over in the street by somebody, a police officer would have been round to the house to explain what had happened. Why should this be any different, basically? There's a mother at home, she's grieving. She's hearing all that she's hearing basically through watching the TV. Where are the people who are accountable? Where are the people who should be explaining to her what's happened?
The family were kept waiting outside this station for over 5 hours. The police and the IPCC were criticised for their insensitive handling of the protest. If they had been open and transparent about Mark Duggan's death from the very beginning, many people believe we would never have seen the explosion of anger that followed.
That anger led to days of rioting and millions of pounds worth of damage to the economy, costing homes, businesses and lives. Many believe it also caused irreversible damage to police-community relations.
The community had a woeful distrust of the police, and there was a complete breakdown and failure between the community and the police at that point.
Claudia Webbe is one of the original founders of Operation Trident, the Met Police unit which tackles gun crime within the black community, and which was following Mark Duggan on the day he died.
We will never know Mark Duggan's side of the story. He was never given the opportunity to have his day in court or to put his story across. The reality is that he died before being able to do so.
Mark Duggan's family had hoped that their day in court would come with the inquest. But tonight they left court saying that there had been no justice and that they had found no peace.